Some dreams do come true. Eventually. Good morning and welcome to Coffee and the Word. Some dreams do come true eventually, and today our story is about a guy named Joseph. Joseph was one of the 12 sons of Jacob, and Joseph and Jacob have an interesting relationship. Jacob loves Joseph. He loves Joseph more than any of the other kids because he is the son of Rachel. And so he loves Joseph. And he gives him his coat of many colors. We can get into all that later. But Joseph has a dream. And I want you to hear the dream. It starts in Genesis 37. It says, Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers. It goes on. Now Israel loved Joseph more, verse 3. Israel loved Joseph more than any other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age and made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that, their father loved him more than any of them. They hated him and could not speak a kind word to them. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to the dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field. Suddenly, my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he said he had another dream. And he told his brothers, "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were all bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his fathers rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept this matter in mind. Now, I don't know if you know the story of Joseph, but Joseph has these dreams, and these dreams, you have to understand, this wasn't just a dream. Like, this was a dream sent from God. Like, this was something that was going to eventually happen to Joseph. Joseph was eventually going to rise up, and his brothers and even his father would bow down before him. And it just doesn't go the way you think. So Joseph has this dream. He's not very smart because he runs to his brothers, and everybody who's got a little brother knows you don't want the little brother running in and telling you that you're going to serve him one day. That's not acceptable. So they get angry with him and they sell him into captivity. They were going to kill him at first, but then they sell him into captivity. He's in captivity for a while. He rises up into Potiphar's house, and he's now an important person in Potiphar's house. And then he gets thrown in a dungeon, and he's in a dungeon for a while. And then he interprets a dream, and he rises up, and then he eventually becomes the second in command of all of Egypt. From a dream to almost a king is what we see happen here. But I want you to understand something. This dream was essentially God telling Joseph what was coming. And he becomes the dream interpreter, right? But God is telling him what is coming. And it takes 10 years before he rises to power. And it takes another 13 years before he sees his dream come to fruition. 23 years from the dream to the fulfillment. That's a long time. 23 years and a lot of trouble and a lot of pain and a lot of problems. And the thing I want us to learn as we look through stories like this, as we go through the Bible, what we'll see is we'll see God make a promise, or we'll see God send a dream, or we'll see God speak a prophecy, or we'll see God send a prophecy. We'll see all these things, and there's this expectation, even then, of instant gratification. There's this expectation that God's supposed to make it happen in our time. And I mentioned yesterday, and I'll mention again today, His ways are not our ways, and His time is not our time. But one of the things we can know for certain is that God's word does not come back void. If God says it, it'll happen. It may not happen in the time you think it should happen. It may not happen in the way that you think it should happen. But if God says it, it will happen. And so God had told Joseph that one day his brothers would bow down before him. And 23 years later, after being a slave and a prisoner, Joseph finds himself standing in the place where his brothers have to come and bow to him, just as God had said. And then Joseph does some amazing things. I want to talk a lot about the story of Joseph as we go forward. But what I wanted you to get today is there's a lot of things that God has laid out for us. There are a lot of promises that God has promised us. And I know that sometimes it feels like you're doing things the right way and you're not getting the results. You're doing things the way you believe God has called you to do them. You're following His way, and it seems like everything else, everyone else, everybody else, everything else, everything is getting better than you. The people who are doing it wrong are getting better results than you. Here's the thing I want you to understand, is God is not slack concerning His promise. You keep living the life that He calls you to live. You keep walking the walk He calls you to walk. And you let Him handle the when. He will lift you up when you humble yourself before Him. That's a promise He makes to us. Humble yourself before God and He will lift you up. But if you want to stand up on your own, there's a good chance you'll get humbled. I want to encourage you, while you may not have a direct dream that something's coming to fruition, I do want you to know you have a lot of direct promises. And while it may not seem like God is doing the thing He promised, maybe, just maybe, it's not time yet. And the time is coming when your dreams, His promises, will be fulfilled. I hope you'll keep reading through the Old Testament, the chronological order. I hope you'll consider some of the things that we find there. There were so many things I could have pulled from this text, from all this text that I've been reading, and I couldn't really decide this morning. So I hope this blesses you. I hope that you'll consider the things that God has said will come back true. God bless you. Have a great day. This is another edition of Coffee and the Word.